Hello and welcome to the second part of this two-part chat. I'm Vivienne, he's Velimir, that's all you need to know.
Welcome to you. Welcome to you.
Hi Velimir. Everything, all the details are in the chat if you want more of that. And if you haven't seen part one, I highly recommend that you do that before watching this part. Because in part one, you know, we're here to talk about the meaning of life. That was what Velimir wanted to talk about, and his quest for that. And in part one, he covered the what, the physical reality. We looked at things like, very importantly, time and space. We touched on free energy. We looked at synchronicity. We made a little dent into free will. And the takeout from Velimir's point of view is that science is the answer. So that was from an external point of view, and the environment we find ourselves in, the situation we find ourselves in as human beings. And in this part of our chat, we're going to take a look at why. What is this for? What are we for? What is this all about? How do we interface with that reality in this game of life that we're all in together? So, Velimir, where would you like to start?
For so long, I was investigating what the world is and who am I. And finally, I understood that the whole universe is alive, endowed with consciousness. And what is consciousness? Consciousness is the continuity of the infinity, of what is infinite. So the time is infinite, but the continuity principle is what constitutes time, what creates time. So consciousness is creating time. That is my general position. And mass and space and energy are finite, and because they are finite, they are parts of infinity of time, what means they are parts of time. And that is very logical, I would say, because if there is something which is finite, must be the part of what is not finite, what is infinite. So the only in the whole physical reality, the time is infinite, everything else is simply the part of it, and that's it. I mean, but then comes the human awareness. So individual awareness is in between the universal consciousness, which holds for the whole universe, and what we call material world. But material world, I mean crystals, atoms, molecules, they also have a kind of a consciousness. That's why they behave according to physical laws. If atom has no consciousness, is out of consciousness, cannot obey the physical laws. It cannot be automatically. Why? Because in the basis of the existence must be the continuity principle, and that is for me consciousness. So everything comes actually from the universal consciousness, but universal consciousness comes from God, and that from the Creator, which is, according to what I think, is actually not cognizable to human mind. We simply cannot understand the act of a creation, the reason of creation, and who actually is behind the creation. We have only conceptions about that. I mean, in philosophy, actually, in let's say 5,000 years, 3,000 at least of written history, we have only one concept of God, and that is the existence. What exists. It is also in Spinoza philosophy, Baruch de Spinoza, or in the René Descartes philosophy, existence or a substance which is infinite. And that's it. But what does that mean? It means nothing. It does not explain how the world is created. So I think that we have to admit that stupidity, let's say so, or restriction, or whatever, curtailment of human mind, and we should explore what is possible to understand, and that is infinity. So the infinity of time gives us the possibility to fight everything what we really need to fight or to overcome, let's say so, and that is death, illness, and aging. That is the reason of suffering. It's not the reason of suffering that we cannot understand God. Only to few, let's say, very high, sophisticated, and I would say tragical alchemists or magicians who tried to understand God but never succeeded, and that's why they were tragical. So I think that we have to understand that we cannot go over certain limits. So what is transcendental is not and cannot be the subject of human understanding, simply like that. But that does not mean that with our mind, also given by God, Creator, whoever or whatever it is, and was, we actually can understand the infinity. And that's what I dedicated my life to. That was the purpose of what I really wanted to achieve, actually. And that was to understand infinity, and that is time. From there, I understood that actually behind the infinity, there are some properties which are given to infinity by Creator, let's say so, and those properties are nothing else but the laws of cosmological ethics. And what are the laws of cosmological ethics? Those are actually the laws of physics, the laws of chemistry, the laws which are investigated by science for so long. And they are not changeable. For example, the leverage, let's say the law of leverage, how to use leverage and how to put that in mathematics. It was discovered by Archimedes in second century before Christ, so 2,300-400 years. Okay, but there is no evolution of that law. That is always the same. Like 2 + 2 is 4, and that was so in old Egypt and in the ancient Greece, and that is so today. So there is no other possibility to put some scientific laws into operation in the way that human can influence it. So they are out of human influence. And that is my criteria, what is given directly by God or what was invented by man. So ethical principles of the tribes in Amazonia, or I don't know, Aborigines in Australia, or in the Christian society, on the Muslim society, or in the Buddhist society, or Krishna belief society. Okay, those are mythological laws of ethics. So there are rules, but human rules. But what we call, for example, the law of gravitation, that is not a human rule. That is something which is beyond human influence, although because we have mind, we can understand gravitation and we can fly, we can levitate, but only if we understand the law and respect the law and find a way to get a kind of good consequence of that law, and the bad consequence that we cannot leave our Earth. But the good consequence is that if we know what gravitation is, then we can create a rocket by which we can leave our Earth, or let's say the soil. So that is simply like that. And that is the cosmological ethics. So the only who really deals with cosmology and the God's laws or rules of ethics, and that is actually the ethics of the universe, is science, not the religion. not the juridical system, not the political system, not the mafia system, not any other system, only science. So physics is ontological science, which deals with the essence of the world. And that's what we can understand. And now we are at the edge of making a great step forward from the informational society into a society which would recognize the nature of physical laws itself. And that nature is in the realm of metaphysics, or actually it is of the spiritual nature. It is spiritual. Gravitational law is spiritual. Okay, if we put Newton's law in a mathematical form, that is a language. It's mathematical language which describes how the law is operating. But then we can have a telescope, and by telescope we can see planets going around the sun very clearly, no problem. So that is a material level, experimental level. And then we have the other level, which is mathematical language, and that is formula. But what is about the law itself? It is out of our senses. We cannot see it. We can only feel it by our existence. That is true. But understanding of that spirituality is something which we have to achieve now in the new step of development of science and the completely new approach to the universe. To understand there are three levels, not only experimental level and the mathematical level of describing it by formulas, but also the level of metaphysical domain, metaphysical level of the whole thing, and that is the law itself. When we understand that, then we will also be able to understand or to put that knowledge to apply it on the human existence, because we are also three levels. We are level of body, level of soul, and level of spirit. So what is spirit in humans? It is a consciousness. That is the universal consciousness, not individual awareness. Individual awareness, that is the state of mind or psychical state of our soul. So we have awareness, it is soul, but we have consciousness, and it is a spiritual level of existence, which is common for everybody. It is not individual. It is for everybody, and also that connects us to the universal existence. And now comes the body level, which is changeable. It is impermanent. It is changing all the time. Why it is changing all the time? Because only the laws are eternal. So laws we cannot change. But what we can change is the soul structure. Why? Because soul, from my point of view, soul is electromagnetic complex of certain waves. It is a very complex structure, which is united by what we call ego or I, certain number, and that number is interim time. Actually, it's mathematical way what makes that construction synchronous. And that is actually soul, which is leaving the body in the moment of death, and we can measure it by spectrophotometer, as I said already. Why? Because it is a very great amount of energy. And that energy leaves the body in the moment of asynchronization of the body and the soul, which is electromagnetic, and of course, body, which is atomic and molecular. And in psychology, for example, we do not have any explanation of the soul. With, let's say, Carl Gustav Jung or Sigmund Freud, you cannot find that sentence, soul is and what that is. I mean, we call it a substantial definition of soul. We cannot find it at all. Why? Because they did not dare to go into that realm. They thought actually that is a theology, and they cannot go over that, because psychiatrists, they are very much in contradiction with the theologists. Why? Because if somebody has, let's say, kind of illness, I mean psychical illness, it's not okay, then it comes from demons in theology, or it comes from the psyche, or a deviation of psyche functioning, as say psychiatrists or psychologists. But then, if because they cannot say what soul is, we come to nowhere. So psychology deals only with methods of healing, not with a subject of healing. Subject of healing is soul, and what soul is. That's why I thought that if we have physics as an ontological science, we should have a physical hypothesis of the soul. And I found that actually it is already known and experimentally recognized so many times, but nobody dared to say that is that. And that is the problem also of the ethics. So if we let's say, suppose that ethical level of the universe is coincides with the level of physical laws. So the physical laws are what God created as the ethical laws of the universe, which are coming everything. So coming evil and good consequences for our system, or looking from our perspective, something is good, something is bad, but all what is happening is according to the same law. For example, the law of gravitation, you can use the law of gravitation to make Taj Mahal or so beautiful architecture, but you can also jump over the window and you will see the same, absolutely the same, the same law which is functioning against you, not in favor of you. So the law covers everything, and God does not interfere in how the law is to be applicable, or to how the law affects you. Why? Because we have a kind of free will, and that is our promise. So we are those who are choosing the way the law is going to affect ourselves, and that is the simply, it's a kind of interaction. So the God gives ethical laws, but now we can use those ethical laws in different ways. Or it is limited, because we have a limited energy content and limited mass. So we cannot do whatever we want. No, that is not so. But according to what is given, we have a certain degree of freedom of our free will, and we can choose how this law in the feedback process will affect us according to our action to the environment. So we have action, and reaction is according to the law. We choose the action, and that is a free will. But what is really ethical level of the existence are the laws of nature, which are investigated by science or research. We are researching, actually, as scientists, we are researching the ethics of the universe. So the whole science actually is dealing with the God's ethics given by natural law, and that is how I see this cosmological ethics, which is much more above the ethics of humans. And because we always say it's a mythology, so we have different gods, but we invented those gods. Those gods are human inventions. I mean the completely anthropomorphic in gods in the ancient Greece or in ancient Rome. I mean, those are not the real gods. Those are human inventions, or let's say what human thinks about gods. But what is the only connection in between myself and God is my existence. But what can I say about the existence? Nothing but that exists. I exist because I'm conscious of it. That is the only, not because I'm thinking. as Rene Descartes said, cogito ergo sum. So I think it means I am. No, you have to be first and then to think later. So, I mean, existence precedes the thinking. No, the thinking is not the cause of existence. Cannot be. So what we say in general is the existence of God, and then we have our individual existence, which has three levels. The one level gives us that possibility of omnipotence. So we are actually are omnipotent beings, but not in the form of human body and in the form of human soul, which actually is of a light nature. It's a light ball. Literally, when soul leaves the body, it becomes, firstly, has the shape of the body because of the nerve system. And that is electromagnetic magnetic complex structure, which is leaving the body, and after that, it makes a sphere. So, and light sphere. So we live as a light spheric beings after in afterlife, let's say so. But then there is a next step in dying. So we have also losing the individuality. So that is the moment when our light structure, which is actually spherical electromagnetic complex, is losing actually that what connects parts of it and comes directly, I mean, returns to the, let's say, a clear light or electromagnetic spectrum, let's say physically, or ether, luminiferous ether, let's say esoterically, but that is actually the same. So we have discarnation of the soul from the body and the losing of individuality, going to be one with the light itself, and then we become actually the pure consciousness, continuity, which constitutes the continuum of time, and the continuum of time makes that part of it inside it differentiates itself inside, so makes what we call space, but there is no empty space. It's actually luminiferous ether. So, I mean, by our eyes, we can see a very, very small range of visible light, but there are much more waves. I mean, infrared or ultraviolet and so on. But if our eyes would be at a certain moment possible to see completely the whole range of electromagnetic spectrum, the whole universe will become one great light sphere with an infinite diameter. So everything will become light, because everything is of light. But there are some vibrations which are lower, and those lower vibrations we see as a classical picture as the world of things. So things are actually light, which with a lower vibration, nothing else, and that is correspondence. Our correspondence with light or with the world of things is going by synchronicity. What is synchronous? It exists. What is not synchronous for us is unexistent. We cannot perceive it, and that is why I insist on time. So we have to induce the hypothesis of time to understand why the world is like it is. And we are going now. I speak about the Teslian population of let's say early Christians, I would say, because always you have a critical mass of a people who understand better the future than the others, and they lead the whole population. And now it is happening with the Tesla population, experimental physicists, which are actually inspired not only by Tesla itself, not that way, but by his ideas of a free energy and ideas of ether physics and ideas of a transfer of the human work for existence to artificial intelligence so that we can become free, finally free to do the spiritual work. Not only, I mean, to make food or to make shoes or to make whatever we need. No, I mean, artificial intelligence will do that. But before we release that idea of an artificial intelligence, substituting the human work for the existence, for everyday maintenance, we have to become good. So what is goodness? I mean, because if we evil like we are at this moment, I speak about the human race, I mean, get that power of making robots, which are be our replicas. I mean, be actually evil like people, or like human creators. That would be extremely bad, and that would be actually the end of our civilization, which happened so many times in the past. We are not the first civilization on the earth. So many before us actually did the same with the black magic of a very powerful technology. They made hell for themselves, and that was the end of the civilization. And after that, starting again and again. Now I think, because of Tesla, I mean, because of his mission, which came very early already, because of that, we have now chance to include ethics in the scientific discoveries, in the application of what we discover. Discover is a universe as the, let's say, as the mean of power. And now we have to have knowledge plus power, not ignorance plus power, as it was so many times already. And I'm very optimistic in that way. I think that there are signs that we are understand this cosmological ethics, so that we will be able to synchronize and to harmonize with the universe in the way that we understand the physical laws. So understanding physical laws, to choose to be aware that it is good for us, to choose only good consequences for our system, I mean, psychosomatic system, let's say so that actually those consequences of those laws will be good for us and harmonizing us with the environment, and not put us in the kind of destruction process.
Okay. So I think what you're saying is that we have to, the reason you're optimistic that we might get it right this time is because you see signs that we have understood the importance of the ethics, the laws of science and nature, and that we have perhaps understood or are beginning to understand that we need to interface with that and to choose, using the free will principle, to choose to do good things with that knowledge, to bring those together. This really reminds me of a book I read once called Spontaneous Evolution. And in the very first pages, the authors talked about, there was this great quote from it, that science had climbed the mountain of knowledge and found Buddha sitting at the top.
Yes, I think that we had that great teacher Buddha who showed us the way how to go over the suffering and to go out of the human situation only by consciousness. That there is the only way, and that is a spiritual way. That's why Buddhism is not a religion. That is very interesting. It's actually a philosophy. From my point of view, that is the most profound philosophy world ever had. And it comes from Upanishads and from Vedas. Okay, there is a tradition. But what is interesting that never, it is not known that in the history that Buddhists were making any violence, organized violence. Never. Christians did, I mean. Christians did, Muslims are doing it still, and so on. But Buddhists not. Why? Because they simply realized also Padmasambhava, the Tibetan Book of Death, the great knowledge which is hidden there, according to the tradition. Padmasambhava died and then came from the world of death, came to tell the story what is happening in afterlife, and that is Tibetan book. When I read that, and it happened 40 years already ago, that was for me the most, let's say, not only profound, but actually the revelation. I understood that death cannot be end. Of course. Why? Because we are in the infinity. So there are only transformations of the forms. We are formed inside infinity. We cannot disappear, like, because there is not non-being. Non-being is relative. The being is absolute. So everything is only transforming itself, and after that there must be a kind of transformation. So my question was, before I read the Tibetan Book of Death, is it conscious or not? Okay, are we losing consciousness when we die or not? And I mean, explicitly in Tibetan book is said not. So we are still aware of everything, and that makes sense, because at the moment when you are born, that is not the moment when you get the soul. So it comes in the 5th day after the fertilization of the cell. And then what is that? That is actually what in Christian tradition is also said about about the ray of light which comes to the Mother Mary, and that was the way how the Christ becomes a being. I mean, is incarnated. And that is absolutely so. I mean, literally, that is so. Because you have 2 cells and chromosomes and so on, you make that combination on the material level. But then comes electromagnetic program of replication of that cells into how many billion of times into being of 100 kilos. So that is the point. So we actually have to understand that soul is of light nature, and the body is light nature also, but on the level of atoms and molecules with a very low vibration. So we have higher vibration, which is soul, and lower vibration, which is body. And actually, what is not vibration, that is the cause of vibrations, and that is continuity of continuum of consciousness of time, and that is the spiritual level. So 3 levels, and that is something which explains everything. I mean, there's no problem. So at the moment when science will recognize 3 levels, not only 2, not only mathematics and physics, but what about the nature of laws themselves? And that is the moment when we will make a great step forward to understanding ourselves, because understanding nature or ourselves doesn't make any difference. That is absolutely the same. So at the moment I read Tibetan Book of Death, I ceased to think that death is the end, because if death is the end, then ethics doesn't make any sense. We can do anything because that makes the end. But that is, of course, not so. And it is an infinite process. Why? Because time is infinite itself. It's constant present time. So what we are talking about is just a changing of forms. And those forms are mass and space and energy. And those are changing. Time is always the same, but human awareness is a certain light mathematics which makes a genome program for development of the body, and that is how it is functioning. And genetic scientists which are which are working with genomes, and also quantum medicine, which is now very popular and so on. They are coming to the level of atoms and the parts of atoms where actually they have to admit they have to include the spiritual level, otherwise they cannot understand the process at all. It is not material, because in DNA we know all the molecules, and we have it in the air. I mean, oxygen, nitrogen, and so on. That's not a big deal. But arrangement. And what is arrangement? Arrangement is time. But what is time? Time is actually consciousness. So we have to be conscious of the way of arranging those material worlds. But it's not enough to be conscious of how they are arranging themselves among themselves. Not only that, we have to be conscious of their origin. So that is the same source of this. What the source from laws are coming, and the origin of whatever exists itself. So we have to go to the, let's say, to the deepest level of understanding, and that is understanding not of time, but of consciousness. So consciousness, and then time, and then everything else. And if we put in philosophical approach to the nature, the whole problem in that way, we will understand what we are doing at all. Otherwise, we will think that by tablets and let's say chirurgy and so on, we can repair our body to become immortal, and that is not possible. That is for sure. We have to regenerate the body from the very bottom of its appearance, and that is the level of not of time, but of consciousness. So consciousness, and then time, and then light, and then we come to what we call DNA and the rest of material structure of what we are.
So, are you saying that the way that we choose to perceive of our physicality, for example, you talked about, human suffering, kind of like the source of human suffering is death, illness, and aging, right? Those
Yes.
are our chief fears, aren't they? Bogeymen. So are you saying that actually the key to end that suffering and to end our, illness and the degeneration of our bodies is to change our understanding, our perception, our perspective on that? Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. I mean, philosophy, generally speaking, is kicked out from science for 100 years already. I mean, so what they are doing is just, blind experimenting blindly, and that is not enough. I mean, simply what we need is to understand the whole thing. But to understand, we have to have a clear mind, which can pinpoint the problem which we are trying to solve. And that is now absolutely impossible to be done in science because of education. Now you have so many universities where, for example, you get a PhD, and you get, as a good student of Harvard or Princeton or Berkeley or Oxford, whatever, you get an impression that actually you can speak about how universe is created, what is matter, what is time, what is Big Bang theory, and that is completely false idea. I mean, that is not so. So in 15th century, for example, you have 2-3 people who were doing with those problems, but they were extremely intelligent, endowed people, spiritual people. Now you think that you can get answers on such a deep questions by education, and that is absolutely untrue. So we have to, again, to make completely free schools like Plato's Academy in all time, when we are discussing, so without released by all prejudices, discussing some certain problem firstly of God and of existence, and that is not possible in the church, because in church you have dogma, and dogma knows everything. So you cannot do anything anything else but in the circles which I call Teslian circles, because Tesla was the man who said, I am deeply religious, but I believe in one God which is not described in existing religions. What was the God of Tesla? And Tesla was the son of an Orthodox priest. So he was very much, so that is interesting. So he had, as a very small boy, he was faced with the religion. I mean, as a dogma or answer to the world, to how world was created. It was written in the Bible. His father knew that. Every Sunday he was talking about to the people. People were expecting him, and so for an old boy, it was a great step to let's say it's a kind of an inner compulsion of him to be free of all those books and dogmas and education which were so prescriptive, and to find God by himself. And he found the God in science. And that's what happened after all. After all, he understood that actually the laws of universe are the laws of God and not what is said in Bible. I mean, of course not. So that is the moment of which we are living now, the moment of how to recognize that we actually never understood and never answered those great questions, that we are at the beginning, we are at the 0 point to start to understand it again.
So, do you think that's why sort of the knowledge about Tesla has been suppressed? Because it was about more than just free energy, and that would somehow hurt the fossil fuel industry. That it was actually that we might find out who we really are and understand the nature of our existence.
There are some reason, I mean, understandable reason and very hidden reason also why Tesla is suppressed. Understandable reason because of a free energy. So he actually solved the energy problem by Wardenclyffe Tower, and he tested the tower 1903 in July, and it was working perfectly. So he was able to pump out the energy from the ionosphere and put it in the earth, so, and to circulate the energy in between earth and ionosphere, so everybody on the world only has, if he have an antenna, take an antenna, put it in the earth, and take electricity from the earth. And he tested it, it was working. After that, panics came, and they stopped that at that moment his research. But secret societies understood that moment they cannot really give it to the world. It will not be accepted, but there will come the day when it will be not only possible but necessary. And these days it is necessary. Now we understand that we need that higher knowledge of energy and how to supply energy in inexhaustible way, so not to put human work into making energy and then spend that energy which we created by ourselves. Doesn't make a big deal. I mean, so we have to understand the ocean of energy, which is universal, and we just have to have antenna, and with the antenna we take that energy from the universe. So what is hidden is shot. You don't have a single shot of Tesla walking in front of hotel, or you don't have his interview, you don't have his voice. And why? Because it is all hidden, because of frequency. Frequency is so important, frequency of what he was emanating as a being, that and it is a great characteristic of a being, voice, the frequency of the voice. His voice was very high, very, very high, and he was always in a special state of mind and very excited. And that, I mean, high frequency, let's say, high frequency state, and he actually he was not giving interviews, only 2 of them in his, but there are 5 hours of interviewing with Tesla, and it was published in a New York Times in 1935 that SCA, Radio Corporation of America, made an interview with Tesla 3.5 hours with the 35 millimeters sound film. But where is it? Where is it? From my point of view, at that moment, because J.P. Morgan, he was who was supporting Tesla. J.P. Morgan was not the owner of money he used, but the owner was Rothschild. So Rothschild probably has all that Tesla items in him because they were collecting. After 1903, they were stopping Tesla's influence to the scientific world. So he withdrew in a seclusion, and he was working for 35 next years, completely out of public, only with the newspaper and so on. That's why in a press clipping, we can see continuity of Tesla work. Only in press clipping, but not in the archive, because from the archive, many things were taken out. So there are 2 reasons. One reason is economical and political, and that one is clear. But the other reason is the reason which have secret societies of the world, especially Asian philosophical circle, which is governing everything. I mean, governing China, India, and Russia, and the rest of the world subsequently. So actually, they think that it is not still the moment to release everything about Tesla ideas because it's the start of a completely new civilization of the Earth. At that moment, what we have, Einstein's physics and so on, it's complete, goes to the museum, it is obsolete, and we start with the ether physics and with the ethical science. We start a new civilization which will not have a state, a way of organization. States as the organization of a human society are completely out of date. I mean, they have to go because they are very slow. Now, in informational society, you have exchange of informations, which is extremely accelerated. And what they are doing, those people on the borders, sitting there and taking passports and so on, does not make any sense because all the informations are already known. Before you come to the border, they know everything about you. So what the border is for? I mean, what does it serve? What does it serve at all? So that is the moment of transformation of civilization, which is now at hand. And I think that we are very close to the moment when some of Tesla's ideas, which are at that moment absolutely out of question to be released, nobody would understand and nobody would follow. But now people are ready to, because all mistakes were done. So now we have only the right way left to the civilization. Otherwise, will be the Great War, and that is the end. I mean, I hope that will not happen, but there is another reason which maybe will sound very fantastic, but the reason is that we are not alone in the universe. There are some higher intelligences which are, because of themselves, are following what we are doing, and from time to time they interfere. For example, you do not have, and nobody put any emphasis on that, but we do not have nuclear tests for 20 years already. Why? Nobody is making nuclear tests. Not America, not Russia, not China, nobody. Why? Because it is forbidden in the nice way, but very deeply in the circles of power, so that nobody at all disclose why they stopped. So that is the moment. I think that there are some higher intelligence, because it is absolutely impossible that God and the universe made us humans with all this, let's say, horrible properties and wrongdoing make us at the let's say top of the pyramid of the human of the cosmical evolution. So humans cannot be on the top of a universal evolution. Must be some beings which are above us. Not only about the intelligence. Intelligence is not the highest knowledge. The highest knowledge is wisdom, and the wisdom is ethics, and ethics is consciousness.
Boom, mic drop, Velimir. Boom, mic drop. So we've looked at our physical game, of this reality. We've looked at us human beings and how we interface with that. Clearly, we have to do a part 3 where we need to look at. I want to talk about secret societies. Who are they? Why are they? Why don't we know about them? Well, they're secret. That's why. And of course, we're going galactic. The extraterrestrial aspect, and maybe talk a little bit more about that. Are you up for that? Part 3?
Yeah, maybe. Why not? You see, about the secret societies, but that is the main issue of our moment, our current situation. Because who is actually governing the world? Joe Biden? Obviously not. Putin? Of course not. He's a small bureaucrat, in the KGB structure. He's not, I think, deciding anything. Anything important. So who is governing? And why that is so, let's say, harmonized and suppressed? Suppressed because, what does it mean? But suppressed in a good way. Those who want violence, who want war and so on, from some reason they cannot. They simply cannot do what they want. That reason is not only there are 2 levels: the secret societies which are connecting to higher intelligences.
Right. So when I have, for me, the word secret society have negative connotation. I've always thought of secret societies being people doing stuff about us that affects us without our knowledge, and that's a bad thing, and that they're not beneficial. But what you're saying, and I so hope you're right, Velimir, is that there are secret societies that are actually wise and far from malevolent, are here to protect us from ourselves and to guide us to where we're meant to be going. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, yes. I can feel it. I cannot explain it in detail because I don't know where they are. But what I think that it is a diffuse structure. It's not like, for example, there is a room in Asia which is hidden 100 feet behind. Down the soil, and then they come and make like a discussion. It is not like that. Those are clairvoyant people which are very alone. Each one is somewhere in the world, and he lives normally. When you ask the neighbors, they said, okay, yes, he's working in a bank, or he's an artist, or he's, I don't know what, a farmer. But they are connected to the cosmical laws. So they are channeling cosmical laws. And they do that in a way that when they become aware, so they emit that image, because our thoughts are images, actually, that image into ionosphere, and the ionosphere is collective mind. And when it is emitted in collective mind, then everybody who has that, let's say, frequency tuner, he can download that idea. That's how they actually are governing the world. It is not that they are called, I don't know, for example, Boris Johnson, and say, Boris, you have to do that. Doesn't do, because when you are channeling cosmical laws, those are not possible to deny. And they are governing 100%. That's how they do. And that is the world government. That is the real world government. People who are planning, but they are out of the system. If they are in the system, they cannot function in the system. Must be function completely out of the system. And those are who are aware of the dangerous situation in which our civilization is, because people who are completely ignorant of cosmical ethics, or they are driven by their not only prejudices, let's say they're driven by greed, for example, or a zest for power, or whatever. Those people are dangerous for this civilization because they have a great power. But those are normally in the military structure or a political structure and so on. But the point is that now, and Russia started doing it because of theosophical circle in the Russian intelligence, military intelligence, they are now transforming completely their army. So their secret weapons are becoming frequencies, not tanks, not ships, not airplanes. No, it's completely obsolete technique. Now you have just to change the mind of your enemy. If you change the mind of your enemy, you become friend with him. He's not enemy anymore. So that is one point, and the other point is that they have to make an economical transformation of the world, so to be able to enormous funds, military funds, transfer to artificial intelligence. According to the state of technology, now we can have robots to do 90% things instead of us, but we are not doing it because people are not aware of goodness of such a situation. They think actually that is a transhumanism, that will destroy us. I'm not human anymore if my coffee is not made by me but by my robot. I mean, it doesn't make that sense at all. So now there is a great transformation, and starting in Asia. In Asia, because Russia is not a normal state as a Western state. It's actually cloning. It's a clone of of, let's say, hidden cores, actually hidden core of intelligence. For example, the core of Russian military intelligence is theosophical society. And theosophical society is a high ethical society. No question about that. So now we have generals in Russia, for example, General Leonid Levashov, General Petrov, who are speaking about like Helena Blavatsky. I mean, that's unbelievable. They're completely out of military way of thinking. Only they are but in uniform, and that is the moment of deep transformation of one state in a completely different society without army, which is against the other army of the other nation. So that is something which we have to go over, because we now are making planetary society. So what does it mean? American army is against Russian army, Russian army is against German army. I mean, completely out of sense. We don't need army in that way at all. And you know who actually, what is the great sign, and who actually announced that transformation? Star Wars, George Lucas. That is completely theosophical story. Mr. Campbell, British philosopher who is behind the whole project, he is theosophist. And you know, and that was made for children, of course, for the next generation. So that's how they do. They put it in the children's story, and so you have one new generation who is very because of I think that there are 9 or 8 parts of Star Wars. Now they're completely educated in a theosophical way. I'm speaking about billions of children all over the world who saw
that? Yeah.
Yes.
So film. Are you saying that that's like a dramatized documentary, Star Wars?
It's a kind of documentary. Very good. Very good. they said it's mockumentary, but not mockumentary. It's a documentary, but about the civilizations which are actually are not only fiction, and it's not complete fiction, because on the earth we have so many different species. And can you understand, can you imagine how many species are in the universe, in parallel worlds? We have to understand that we are not alone at this moment, at this stage of development of human mind and civilization. We are absolutely able to understand that. I mean, and that is why that general propaganda through the children movies is so important, because children can accept it very easily. I mean, without any problems. They even like those beings.
Yeah, yeah. Outside of reality.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, we have so much more to talk about. We stand on the edge, if I'm hearing you right, Velimir, we stand on the edge of a radical transformation
Yes.
of our existence on this planet. And I
Yes, I hope Serbia will be the first. With our friend Novak Djokovic.
All right.
Yes, he's completely different being. I mean, tennis is thing which is not so important to him. It was one stage of his life. He was young. He started with 5 years of age. He started playing tennis. And now I talked to him many times, and I can tell you that he has that kind of a pivot which is completely spiritual, and he has the sense of mission. And that is something which you can feel it. I mean, I recognize that, so I support him, not for tennis, because I don't know what that really is. I am not sportsman at all. But for the spiritual role, he will play definitely in the Serbia here, because we have to start here because of Tesla. I mean, simply like that. Tesla, Djokovic, that's it. Now we have to start, but our people are not aware of that. I mean, they will say, I'm crazy now. I mean, listening this. Okay. They say whatever they want to say. But what we are now having in Serbia, we have now ethnical villages which are completely Teslian around the mountain Ertan, and that mountain Ertan, it's a naturally built pyramid with a very, absolutely, absolutely, all the parameters are, or the measurings are of a Cheops pyramid. It's unbelievable.
Fascinating. Can't wait for the next one, Velimir. We have so much to talk about. Woo, absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Together we win. Together we win against the evil.
Can. Yes, we can.
Yes.
Fantastic. You have a great day. I'll see you next time, Velimir.
Thank you very much for a nice conversation. Being with
Thank you. Bye for now.